Well, this year has certainly brought about many challenges and changes. Most everything now is somehow done virtually. Zoom is now a household word. In fact, we are about to Zoom right now. And as many continue to navigate this new world, it brought about many conversations. How to Zoom, what to have in the background, should my camera always be on? Well, here to give us some insight and tell us about a recent town hall event are Dr. Wallace Dixon Jr., Chair and Professor of the ETSU Department of Psychology, and Dr. Megan Quinn, Interim Chair and Associate Professor of the ETSU Department of Biostatistics and Epidemiology. And great to have both of you with us today.
Thanks for having us.
Delight to be with you, Amy. Thanks for having us.
Well, Dr. Dixon, let's start with you. First of all, this was sort of done through the Ballad Health Strong Brain Institute by ETSU. It's really a bigger group. Tell me a little bit about this particular group.
So there's actually 20 different people, faculty, staff, associates, administrators from 11 different departments and all 8 academic colleges on campus who all got together with a common interest to work to do science, educate, advocate, consult about the prevention and mitigation of adverse childhood experiences. And we've been actually meeting for about over 2 years now. And roughly almost a year ago, we found out that Ballad wanted to partner with us to establish the ETSU Ballad Health Strong Brain Institute. And so we kind of marked the beginning of the, we call it the SBI locally, around March of 2020. And we've been working together to carry out several different objectives since then. It's been a lot harder in Zoomlandia.
Yeah.
But we've been persisting.
And Dr. Quinn, that's one of the things, of course, you guys were using Zoom, meeting on Zoom, and then this actually became the focus of a town hall to really talk about Zoom and how it's affecting people.
Yes, we recognize that all of us are in this pandemic together and none of us really have a way to navigate what's going on. So being on Zoom so much, we all had a lot of questions as members of the Strong Brain Institute and recognize that we could provide some guidance and advice to members of the ETSU community and maybe the community at large, and that they could also provide some advice back to us as the SBI. So it's been an interesting conversation so far.
I bet. And I was reading some of the findings from this town hall, and one of the things that you guys talked about was just advice on cameras on, cameras off, and what that means and how that changes the dynamic in a Zoom meeting. Isn't that right, Dr. Dixon?
Yeah, so I think part of it started when I attended a couple of professional conferences and there were 50 people on the Zoom call, and every single person except the speaker had their cameras turned off. And I just found that so off-putting and disconnecting. Like, I had looked forward to attending the talk and seeing my colleagues and look at how they react to the speaker and the concepts, and I couldn't see anybody. And I got pretty, I got a little in the darkness there, like, why does everybody have their cameras off? Why don't they turn their cameras on? And then it occurred to me that we don't really have any standards about this, and that we're all coming to it with different places. One of the conferences I attended, I found out that the conference organizers actually told everybody to turn their cameras off. And at that moment, I really felt like I didn't want to be part of the conference anymore. So we decided we would have a conversation about that and about what people are bringing to the table when they enter Zoom, what their expectations are, their assumptions, the places they're coming from, and have a broader conversation, because we figured that many of the ideas that we're having, everybody else is having too. And so we just thought we'd have an open dialogue, an open set of conversations.
And one of the things that you guys say it's important to do, and you mentioned this, Dr. Dixon, is sort of setting the standard ahead of time and having that conversation with these different groups that you're meeting with, so you're all at least on the same page.
Right, yeah. So one of the members, Dr. Phyllis Thompson, came up with the concept of a comfort contract, which is that when you enter into a meeting, you, particularly for a class, but it could be any regularly recurring meeting, you set up, here are the standards for this meeting, and let's talk about these standards and agree to them and find out what we're comfortable with. And so then from that point on, everybody understands how they're going to approach the meeting and what the sort of social expectations are in that space.
And Dr. Quinn, what were some of the things that stood out to you that you guys thought was pretty interesting that came out of these meetings talking about Zoom?
I think the idea of being curious and being reflective as to why people may want their cameras to be on or off, and understanding that people may come to the table with different reasons for being willing to be engaged with their camera on, or they're still engaged with their camera off. So understanding that, you know, some people may not have their camera on due to a safety reason, or they have things going on in the background that maybe they don't want their professor or their colleagues or their you know, constituents to see. And so I think that was really interesting. And then just recognizing that we all had a similar shared experience of not really knowing what to do. And so that background stress for everybody right now with the pandemic has been kind of tough to figure out what's the right or wrong thing to do. So we found that a lot of people just being curious as to why we should have the cameras on or cameras off, and setting up those kind of comfort contracts that Dr. Dixon mentioned. It's similar to when we would go to a meeting in a big room. People would tell you where the bathroom was, if you're allowed to get up, when the breaks will occur. And those are some things that during Zoom meetings we haven't necessarily done because we haven't thought about it in the same way. So those are some of the interesting things that came up for me.
Well, I have to say I loved the article. I think it's a great read for so many people who are doing business every day on these Zoom meetings. So thank you both so much for joining us today. Great to have you on the show.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to give everybody the website. If you would like more information, they've got a website. It's right there, strongbraininstitute.org. You can check that out for more information on this group and this study in particular.